Continue. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Glad you could join us. I have returned from my travels. As I was saying earlier, I've had my tribulations on this trip, but I'll spare you the details. Anyway, do we have some? I think we have some new people on the call. Will, you're of course going to get introduced later. Do we have anybody else that's new to our meeting today? Going once, going twice? Apparently not. Okay, well, let's just get into it then. And give me just a second. I'm going to share my screen. And then, let's see, I believe that's not it. This is it here. Okay, so agenda. Let's, excuse me. So as always, I want to remind you that if you haven't, that if you want to find out who's participating in the task force, that we do have a list that's available online, and you can check it out. And if you have not completed our Google form, one more time, I'm going to ask you to fill out the Google form so that we have your contact information and we can also share that with other members of the task force. So the Google form is available, and we encourage you to take a couple minutes to fill it out. All we're asking is name and organization title and your phone, email, etc. So again, I want to just remind you about that. Secondly is, of course, we have our task force report from last week is available for download, as well as the presentation from our group last week on municipal networks, and that is available for download. And the meeting from last week is recorded and available for viewing if you missed that meeting or want to capture that. And again, I want to thank Oris and Henry, who do a great job of preparing our minutes. And they have been including the chat in there and so forth. So as well as anybody who was registered for this meeting. So if you hear somebody talking, you want to know how to contact them when you get that report, which will probably be later today if I know them, it will have all that information. So I encourage you to check that out. And again, I did do an update on our events and updates. And so I encourage you to check out that page. It has a listing of many of the events and webinars that I'm aware of, particularly those relating to federal funding, as well as some of the things happening here in, excuse me, here in Arizona. And so I encourage you to check that out, as well as many, if not all, I've tried to capture them all, of the new funding that's coming down, federal funding that's coming down. And so a lot of that information is also available on that webpage. So I encourage you to check it out on a regular basis. And with that, let's just get into our agenda. First of all, as always, I want to thank our sponsors, Care First Health Plan, Valley of the Sun United Way, Satellite Broadcasting Communications Association, and Khajiit. And if you guys are not sponsors yet, would like to be, I'd certainly be glad to talk with you about that. So anybody, any new collaborators who have joined us this morning that I missed earlier? We've had a number of people popping on. Okay, excuse me. So with that, let's excuse me. So with that, let's just jump into our federal and state updates. Jeff, you want to kick it off, please?
Sure, Steve. I've got a quick one today. We're continuing down our path with KPMG. I wanted to thank Mala for meeting with them. We're moving very rapidly towards coming up with some conclusions, which is exciting. They've been able to offer some insight that quite frankly, we had not seen in terms of their access to mapping and some of the stuff that is very proprietary that a large company like that has. So really good stuff there. Steve, I need to talk with you about setting up a webinar specifically with the EDA. For those of you who attended the EDA webinars last week, I hope you found that educational. Very exciting program. Cindy Patak, our EDA representative, has been a great partner for us and will continue to be so. As you can tell, there's $3 billion involved. There's a lot to digest there. I'm still trying to wrap my arms around where the best opportunities are, and would love to discuss what you feel are some opportunities that we can discuss with Cindy. And had a chance to meet with a lot of communities last week and a lot of carriers about what their plans are heading into the fall and heading into our grants and other things. Clearly, there are some communities that are all over this. I'm giving a shout out to Kingman in particular. Up in Mojave County, Kingman has really stepped forward and is working to make some stuff happen. So many counties are actually allocating some of their federal allocations towards broadband, and Kingman being one of the ones that we want to make a point to talk about. So if your county is not allocating money towards federal broadband, ask the question, why not? I think it's important for us to understand what the priorities are. It's my experience that when you have multiple government entities participating in these funding mechanisms, and not only do we tend to get better results, we tend to get better carriers that are there long term. So let's continue to push forward. I've got other great stories, but again, I wanted to mention Kingman and Mojave County in particular as somebody who's moving forward with some really interesting stuff up there. So that's all I really had for today, Steve. Thank you.
So Jeff, just to take a minute, and I know we've talked about this many times, but to talk about broadband action teams again, just because, I hear people all the time, we got a number of folks who join us, and how important that is to move ahead and getting plans done in communities.
Yeah, I think that if you look at Yuma County is probably a good example. Yuma County Broadband Action Team started with a very large group involving a lot of different people, government, business, military folks have been involved with that. We've had Homeland Security. It's a unique community. And we've come up with some really good ideas at a high level and drilled down into a task force and now into a much smaller task force that's put out an RFP and is going to be working with carriers in that particular county to make stuff happen. The broadband action teams in other areas, we've had some really interesting processes step forward, some ideas. A lot of this is based on what we found in Payson. And we were able to give Payson a grant a couple of years ago. Payson has, in partnership with Sparklight, has built out a pretty robust business network and is moving into the residential network with fiber right now in Payson. And what we found at the broadband action teams, having these different groups at the table talking about it, and by and large, we find that they're looking for the same thing. But in many cases, people are unaware of different segments, be it the education community and others, that have assets in the community that are eligible. Mylan has done a tremendous job over the last, say, 3 years getting these E-rate networks built. You could look at Apache County, Pinal County, Yavapai County, Yuma County, that can be leveraged to build much larger projects. These are all things that come out in broadband action teams discussion. So if your county does not have a broadband action team, let's talk, because there are very few that do not. And we want to make sure everybody has a seat at the table as these federal programs come out.
Thanks, Jeff. And just to remind people that people like Jeff Mala with the State Library, Mylan, and others who are available and have been helping communities in getting connected. And so there's lots of resources here. More, we hope. And Jeff, I guess we don't have anything from the legislature yet and the governor about our funding requests.
So expect an announcement here in the somewhat near future. I think it's important to remember that they've got a lot going on at the legislature, in the governor's office, and we're sort of on their time schedule, but we expect a broadband announcement this month. We're full steam ahead. I'm spending a lot of time working on our grant, which is coming out this fall. So, again, if your community and your county is not actively involved in getting projects together, let's talk about that, because there is some really interesting stuff. And, Steve, jumping back to broadband action teams, we have a few that aren't necessarily affiliated with the geography. Janet Major and I work on a telehealth broadband action team that has had some really interesting stuff bubble up specific to telehealth. I spent a lot of time with Arizona's tribes, trying to understand what their unique needs are and coming up with programs. I know that the Sun Quarter Network has some great stuff on those areas. So, let's get organized. Let's continue to move forward. I think that this is a rare opportunity right now over the next, say, 6 to 18 months to really get something done in Arizona. And you're going to see communities leap forward and counties leap forward that are getting stuff done. And as I mentioned earlier, I think Mojave County is in a really good position right now.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. Mala, welcome back, and sorry to hear about your injury here, but glad you're back. And Holly, I don't know, Holly, are you online?
Holly's not joining us today.
Okay.
She's got a lot on her plate, and she texted me saying she's not going to join. But I'm happy to be back in the game. And I took a week off because I had family here, and luckily I didn't break my wrist at that time. It happened afterwards. So that's, I think these are all things that we have to go through to realize how every single part of our body is so important. So, yeah.
So Mala, just introduce yourself quickly.
Yes, this is Mala Muralidharan. I'm the state E-rate administrator for public libraries. I work with the state library. And I've been in this game for the last 20 years now. Known a lot of you, all of you mostly. I've been working, again, pushing EBB out to as many people as we can. Tried, again, reminding through our faith-based communities. We've got 87,000 plus households signed up so far, and we're still among the top 15 states. We're not really among the top 10 as we were, but we are among the top 15 states. Steve, thank you for sending us that inquiry. I tried calling that person on that you sent information to me about, to me and Cindy. Couldn't get her on the phone, but I'm going to still try again today.
And I know Cindy's been trying to reach her also.
I've been taking care of it, Mala. I'm in the
Oh, good.
So you don't.
Oh, thank you so much, Cindy. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we need every single family that we can get recruited onto EBB as quickly as possible. So there are a lot of resources, and I will put that in my notes. So any of you who need more information on this to see what progress is being made, USAC has actually even broken it out by zip code, so we can see how many are applying per zip code within Arizona as well as everywhere else. So I'll put all that in the notes. With ECF, it's been a completely different story. It's been very slow. ECF is as different from EBB. Just take a minute to explain that.
Yeah,
EBB,
Mala, you just might want to explain what ECF is for those who may not know that.
Sure. As different from EBB. EBB is the Emergency Broadband Benefits Program, and it's a $3.5 billion program, and it is available. It's kind of like the Lifeline program, where the connectivity is available to individual households, and they can get a tablet or a laptop to go with it. It's one per family, and there is a small copay of about a maximum of $50, and this connectivity will be paid for until the money runs out. So it's, again, only an emergency stopgap grant, and when the money runs out, it runs out. The service providers can continue to provide it at that rate if they choose to. If not, then it goes back to the original rate that you have to pay in that area to get broadband connectivity. ECF, on the other hand, is meant for schools and libraries. It's a $7.1 billion grant, and here only schools and libraries can apply. They can apply through the E-rate program portal, and it is 100% reimbursable, or I should call it pre-reimbursable, if there is a word like that. that you can apply for it and get the money without uh, paying for it in advance and getting a reimbursement. And the money is available for hotspots, for laptops or tablets. Schools are required to do a survey to establish that this is the only way that the children are getting connectivity or sufficient connectivity to do their homework. Libraries, on the other hand, do not need to certify, but the patron who's borrowing it needs to sign something similar to say that this is the only connectivity he or she is getting. The reason why the schools are utilizing it, it seems to be better utilized by the schools than the libraries. And the reason is because one, there has been a lot of grants coming to the libraries, and we have been doing hotspot lending and laptop lending for a while without strings attached. Whereas in this grant, there are strings attached. You do have to keep records for 10 years on who borrowed these hotspots, as well as the laptops and tablets. And libraries really shy away from it. They are not into keeping records for a long time of usage of library material. ALA has been very strongly advocating against this, and most of the library ILS systems, the library lending systems, do not retain this data beyond the time when the book is returned, when a book or piece of equipment that belongs to the library is returned. They may maintain the number of times a book is borrowed, but they don't maintain who borrowed it beyond the time when it is returned. So as soon as it is returned, that record is off the record, literally. So that's been one resistance. The other resistance is the FTE involved. Many of our libraries run with volunteer time, and this, of course, record keeping as well as maintaining it outside of their regular lending system is going to take FTEs, and they really don't have the time. Now, because they've already got some of these equipment through other grants, the CARES Act and other grants, they're continuing to lend out laptops and hotspots, but there aren't as many strings attached to those as to this one. So we'll continue to push it and see how far we can go with it. But again, I think it is a program that is going to show eventually that it is better utilized by schools than by libraries. Having said that, there is the Success Act that Senator Ed Markey and Senator Chris Van Hollen and Representative Meng, along with several other Congress representatives, put forth on the 22nd. And this was called the Success Act. It's securing universal communications connectivity to ensure students' success. A big name, but it is Success Act, which is a successor to the ECF, to continue ECF and extend it by another 5 years and provide $8 billion a year to schools and libraries for connectivity off campus. So that's still being looked at, and it was introduced on July 22nd. Some exciting news locally. We have our Pima Pima County Public Library, PCPL, as well as Apache Junction Libraries are using an antenna over on top of their bookmobiles to enable access for a longer distance to the places, to the communities where the bookmobiles go. And this is really, really exciting. Insight was our partner in this, and they really helped us get these to those libraries. It's exciting to see what usage it's being put to. Libraries are using it to take it to the communities so they can train them using laptops. They are also conducting classes, and of course, the normal trainings and lending books and other things that libraries do with the bookmobiles. So it's really exciting to see, especially reaching communities that are farther away from the library and that don't have access to come to the library, and reaching communities that have less mobility. So the last thing I want to say is that ALA has been ALA is the American Library Association, has been pushing telehealth at the libraries and advocating for it. Exciting news for us, and there are grants that they are highlighting that libraries have gotten to enable telehealth in various forms at the library, like conversation sessions with a health coach or psychologist can easily be handled at the library when with booking a conference room or something like that. Uploading documents that the doctors may need if you have limited broadband at home and do not want to use your data. So it can overcome the data caps. So introducing digital knowledge base for those that need to understand, prevent, treat, or recover from health issues. And the libraries are really competent in gathering the best resources and curating it and pushing it to those who need it. So Pottsboro Public Library, North Texas, is one that has really done a lot in this area that ALA is using as a pilot. They have a health desert grant where they're giving grants to libraries to provide plants and seeds and stuff to the community to grow their own garden at home, health garden, organic garden at home. So these are just examples of things that other libraries are doing. So sky is the limit. And I'm really excited about this project, and I would love to talk to Janet or anyone else who is interested in pushing these through our Arizona libraries as well. Back to you, Steve.
Okay, thanks, Mala. And by the way, would you pass on to Nicole? She had sent me a note a couple weeks ago that she wanted to do an update today. And frankly, since I was on vacation, I didn't get back to her, but would certainly be glad to have her do that at a future meeting.
Sure, I will let her know. Yeah.
Okay,
Steve, this is Mark.
Yeah, Mark.
And so I did post something that I did post last week, but since Mala was speaking about the ECF fund, there is a current bipartisan bicameral bill for $40 billion specifically to extend that program for 5 years. I posted a Markey's press release
Yes.
in the chat, but hopefully Shelby and others are advocating on behalf of terms that would make the library's participation more amenable in the now what would be a 6-year program if extended.
Okay.
Right. Yes, that's what I meant.
Thank you, Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we need to move on. We've got a lot to cover today, and we've got to keep our updates as short as possible. Janet, you're on. Introduce yourself, please.
Janet Major, and I work with the Arizona Telemedicine Program and Southwest Telehealth Resource Center. I wanted to quickly mention a really great pilot project we did several years ago at the Pima County Library with a nurse practitioner going around with their stethoscope around their neck, helping connect people to their patient medical home. And one of the things I love to talk about is the fact that, we can use kiosks, and we've done great pilot projects up in the Navajo area at chapter houses where we were able to create public places where people can have private conversations about their health. And it's a perfect match with the library. And I look forward to being able to work towards maximizing our bandwidth and improving people's access to healthcare through the libraries. It's just a really fantastic idea. And I put a webinar link in the chat because the state of Delaware has an initiative to do that, exactly that, and we'll be doing a webinar. A couple of other educational opportunities coming up. The House Bill 2454 on the impact in Arizona for healthcare professionals is this week with Christina Corriere. If you're interested, on the 17th of August, a pediatric lungs and COVID-19 presentation. If you're a pediatrician or anybody you know in healthcare who wants to know more about it, this is just a really a very scary time because the unvaccinated are the highest at risk, and there's a pediatric population that's dealing right now with lung issues. The other really great opportunity for all of us is on Tuesday, August 24th. Holly Figueroa, who's a really excellent presenter and from the Hopi Village, is going to give, she's the tribal liaison for Health Choice Arizona and serves 17 tribes. She's going to do a webinar on cultural competency. So if you do any work in tribal, you have the opportunity to gain an understanding of different cultural considerations and things that would be tips for effective engagement for doing tribal work. And that's it. Please visit our website. I'll put the link for all of the webinars. They're all on the same place to register, and look forward to seeing you there. Thanks.
So Janet, you know, I don't think we've ever actually made you a key speaker for one of our meetings. And so I don't know that people really understand the breadth of what the telemedicine program is about. So let's talk about maybe doing that in the next couple of weeks.
Sure, that'd be great. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Sophia, are you online? I believe I saw you online. Mylan, I don't know if you're here or not.
Sophia's here. I don't know if Mylan's here.
So want to give us a quick update, please?
Sure, I can share my screen, right, Steve?
Yes, you want to share your screen?
Yeah, that would be great in just a second. So
Okay.
my name is Sophia Mayberry. I'm the project manager on the executive team and the tech policy coordinator at the Arizona Department of Education. And the exciting thing that I want to share is hopefully you saw via email or social media that we announced the work of our tech task force about maybe a week or 2 weeks ago. And with that, I want to share a brand new technology hub on our website. Can you confirm you can see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Awesome. So what we did is we wanted to pull together all of the amazing work of the Tech Task Force along with the web pages that Mylan manages into one technology hub. And so that's what this new web page is. So if you look over on the side here, you've got the broadband program, the E-rate program, all the information that Mylan manages here. If you scroll down on the page, there's a section for educators, administrators, and families, which reflects the work of the task force. We created the technology toolkit, which is an amazing resource for parents and caregivers. That hasn't changed much, though we are going to make a great update to that this week. I'll share that next week. The digital teaching and learning resource is an amazing guide for educators that they can use for those who are going to remain teaching online, or even for those who want to integrate technology into the ways that they're teaching in the classroom. This digital teaching and learning guide turned out amazing. We're really proud of that. As well as the rural digital divide white paper is also on this web page. We could not be more excited about this white paper. Please share it far and wide. It is the voices of educators in rural Arizona telling you what the technology situation is like for them, educating students in rural Arizona. So this is such an important document as well. I'll put this link in the chat as well as soon as I'm done speaking, because it's a little hard to do two things at once. So we shared all of this out in a press release and social media a couple of weeks ago. We've shared it with all of the Tech Task Force members. Additionally, we're working internally on the long-term plan recommendations. The long-term plan group recommended that ADE consider a new position or a new unit within the department to support schools in digital teaching and learning and education technology, a more formal and robust partnership with the Sun Corridor Network, and then to possibly in the future consider a grant program for schools to update their technology. And we, with our new interim CEO, Chris Richardson from ASU, are working on all of those recommendations and figuring out how to make it all work. But I would encourage you to share this with anyone who needs these kinds of resources as the new school year begins. Are there any questions?
So just FYI that the information about their plans and so forth is on our newsletter that I spoke about earlier. That has the links. Actually, Sophie, I can't remember if I put your contact information in there, but I will. But it has a link to the hub and all the resources that Sophia talked about.
Yep.
Any questions or more, Sophia?
No, this was my main update today, but I'm happy to take any questions. I know there've kind of been a lot of education stuff in the news lately, though not much of it technology related, unfortunately.
Okay.
How's this shared with parents?
So the department actually doesn't interface directly with parents. So we usually share resources for parents with schools and let them know like, hey, you guys can share this with schools. Also by sharing it here, if any of you guys have access to parents. Additionally, the group that led that work, the Parent Tech Toolkit, has much more access to parents and they've all been sharing it through their networks as well. But ADE doesn't really directly interface with students and parents.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions for Sophia? If not, we need to move on because we want to make sure we give Will plenty of time. So Derek, are you online? I think I saw you.
Yep, I am. And I'll be as quick as possible, Steve.
But you got lots of stuff happening.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's crazy. I've been pulling things out of my list as time has gone away from us here this morning. So, but we'll be back next week as well. So the big news is, yeah, we're excited to be working with the Department of Education as we explore those long-term recommendations and particularly a more strategic partnership with the Sun Corridor Network and the Department of Education. Had a great kickoff event last week for our Precision Agriculture Science Network planning in Yuma, and we'll wind up pretty deeply integrated into that broadband action team kind of activity in Yuma that Jeff mentioned earlier. And I'll just say that the universities operate in every corner of the state, and our involvement in that broadband action team brought about the right relationships to pull together this project that we just got National Science Foundation funding for. So, lots of possibilities when you put all the right people in a region, in a room together and talk about broadband challenges. A quick update on the Middle Mile project. So the I-17 and I-19 construction projects are, we've been forecasting largely a summer completion. I think we're going to officially need to move that to fall of 2022, perhaps even late fall. So just we're looking more at an October kind of time frame. Although one thing very exciting is the I-17 segment 1, which is the northernmost segment, breaks ground right around September 1st. And so you start seeing trucks rolling up there between the McGuireville rest stop and Flagstaff. That's probably broadband going in. So pretty exciting stuff. Last but not least, maybe the biggest thing going on in our world right now is the Lighting Up the Future initiative, along with the 3 states universities and a number of county partners are preparing a series of grant proposals, specifically a big one for the NTIA broadband infrastructure opportunity, and likely 1 or 2 for the minority communities opportunities. Both of those opportunities focused on connecting the unconnected. And we'll be doing that with advocating to and through approaches and looking for provider partners in the impacted communities. And so lots of work underway on those 2 opportunities and more to come. I mean, this is really just the tip of the spear, I think, in terms of available funding and opportunity to build networks and connect communities. So those are the high points, Steve.
You've done amazing stuff, and since you became full-time over there, Derek, it's just incredible what you've done, and it's pretty consistent with our recommendations that we expand the Sun Corridor network to serve a lot more than the 3 universities. So lots is happening. So thank you very much for that.
You bet. Thank you. Thank
Okay.
you. I mean, it's all rooted in collaborations like this one, Steve.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
You bet. So Mylan, you're not online again, are you? Les, are you online by chance? I haven't seen you in a while. Okay, anybody know what's happening with the Final Mile project recently? I know lots of stuff happening. They got funding from the Department of Ed. Sophia, do you have any updates about that?
Last time I checked in with Mylan, they were still working through the RFPs, but I will get a specific update and bring it next week.
Okay, sounds like a plan. We need to get Wes back. Haven't seen him in a while. He's doing some really amazing.
This is Karen.
Yeah, Karen.
This is Karen here. Hi there. Hi, everyone. Sorry, I was out vacation. I can comment on the Final Mile project, but because we're one of the vendors, I'm not sure if I should, but the RF, in terms of details, but the RFPs have been opened, and as of last Monday, they were read out loud. So we know the vendors that are involved, and there's the next step that Mylan has been working with the vendors and having meetings with the different entities to talk about what their solutions are and what they're bringing to the table before they make the award.
Okay, thanks,
Does that
Karen.
help at all?
Anybody else? Leah, are you online? Doesn't look like she's here today. I think that's everybody. Good. Well, thank you all for your updates this morning. So let's move on to our presentation this morning. As I don't think I have to tell any of you how important cybersecurity is, and is becoming more and more of a challenge these days. And so I'm pleased to welcome Will McCullen, who's the Advanced Program Manager for Pima Community College. And among his many challenges or responsibilities, I should say, is that he's heading up the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range, which is really a great resource for our people. And I know there's others in the state, and we can talk about that in a little while. But with that, Will, I'm going to stop sharing. And if you've got a presentation you want to share, you're on.
Okay. There we go. Where did it go? I believe this is the right one. So let's see, what are you seeing at the moment?
You can hack it at Pima.
Awesome, we're in the right place. Alrighty, welcome everybody. Steve invited me to come give a quick presentation of what we're working on and what we're doing here in our Center for Excellence. And so I'm going to give you this really quick whirlwind tour because I know we only have a little bit of time. So to give you an idea, the college has been working very heavily on centers for excellence in many different disciplines. We've worked very heavily with the creating the applied technology building and stuff in the downtown campus, which is going to really support automotive and robotics and all sorts of fun stuff over there. And then we have our health center of excellence. We have a whole slew of them, including IT. And so I represent the IT portion. We've also been able to create a partnership with a group out of Phoenix that you may or may not be aware of, called the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range. These folks are a group that a very unique skill set of individuals that work very heavily with 3-letter acronym organizations and also are heavily involved with a company called Tech Data, which is a very large company that you probably haven't heard of, but it's the nation's largest tech distributor of technology. And so the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range is a unique place in that it is here at East Campus we have a large room and also a small data center area for them to where anybody in the community can come and learn how to hack. And along with that, it's not a cyber range as what you may have come across before, where it's like a virtual environment. It is a place where students can come get hands-on, work with servers, and set up environments, download stuff right off of the dark web, put it into operation. It's not a good place to do your banking, but it's a really awesome place to hang out and be able to get hands-on, learn how to hack. And so what we did is right next to that, we've built our Center for Excellence, where we have a student-run data center and a cybersecurity operations center, which is what you see behind me, and a fusion area. And the whole concept there is that this is our great experiment in that the data center is going to be a very complex environment, duplicating everything in data centers with development stage production environments, and the students are going to be running it. We had a big conference with businesses all across Tucson and kind of said, okay, let us know what you need from students so that you'd be able to hire them. And we took that feedback, and a large part of that was definitely hands-on, but also soft skills like project management, change management. So we've built that into our program. We have a project management class in our program for our cybersecurity, because the businesses didn't say we need project managers, but we do. Day one, they're going to be part of projects. So they need to understand the lingo and be comfortable with that environment. And so we're building that in the data center. And so far it's been very successful. Students have been having a blast with that. Also with the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range, that's a great place for cybersecurity professionals in the community to come and hone their skills and sharpen their skills. And so with the Center of Excellence right next to that, then the students can be working with cybersecurity professionals as well as being hired by them. And we've been seeing that in force before COVID hit. And now we're trying to get back to reopening, you know, after all the COVID difficulties. They also bring a very unique element in that the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range is also an ISAO, an information sharing organization. So they have international abilities to see indicators of compromise, which are, you know, when attacks come against your firewalls or servers, they create logs, and that threat data is collected. Well, they've got the ability to kind of see everything that's coming against the military sector, health sector, energy sector, and all that. It's a product that is resold through Tech Data known as Recon NG. And they are going to make that feed available to Pima Community College so that our threat assessment classes are not going to be just standard out of, you know, sample data. It's going to be live data compare with international comparisons to be able to hopefully also help save the state of Arizona and the nation. But we're taking the standard teaching approaches that you get in your normal curriculum, of course, and then also building that in with the student data center and with Fusion Spaces to bring in that hands-on learning, right? So that we find that students are really grasping the concepts much better when they're being put in this environment where they have to make all those comparisons. You know, typically you'll find in many classes where you'll take like Cisco training, Windows, Linux, but rarely do you get the situation where you have the Linux front end that has to talk to the Microsoft database on the back end through the Cisco, right? This is where we put all that together. And then the whole concept with the Center of Excellence is business best practices, and then you go to the range to break it, right? So that's where that really comes into play. And also, if I go back a slide here, we're also working very heavily with our K-12 partners in our dual enrollment programs, so that students can be gaining that college credit and be going through those programs early while they're still in high school and pick up that credit. Also working with developing IBM P-Tech out here, as well as Cyber Patriot, which many of you may be aware of. And we're trying to develop those virtual desktop environments so that a lot of the hacking elements can happen here at Pima on a completely separate network from the college, so that it remediates that threat that students might find in their own environments in the K-12. It helps to remove that and bring that to the virtual space here at Pima. And so we're trying to work heavily with our K-12 partners to include those elements and be a resource for them that way as well. This is our student-run data center. As it's been happening here, we're getting a lot of elements going, but you can see that we've got rack space, and the students are working on nice large servers that have like 128 cores and 700 gigs of RAM and you know, a whole bunch of storage. So that's proceeding really well, and the students are in building the complex VM environments. And again, like I said, where they have development stage and production. And again, I'm sorry I'm going through this in a whirlwind aspect, but trying to fit Steve's time frame here. So
Will, I think you said that this is about a 2-hour presentation. You're squeezing into 30 minutes.
Well, when we do a tour, right, it goes a lot more. So let me know when I'm starting to near my time, so I'm hospitable to your needs there. This is our fusion space, which brings in a whole adaptive classroom element. Lots of whiteboard space, which is great for programming classes, but we can project anything that we do here. If I just take my camera, if you can see my picture, we have the CSOC area, but then we have a collapsible glass wall that goes into that fusion space, right? So that the whole idea here is we're trying to create an environment where we can have operations war room, we can have defend, attack, red team, blue team in the cyber arena. We can have operations taking place in a class about the operations, trying to maximize flexibility wherever we can and trying to build that arena. But the whole concept of the Fusion Center is that we're not just going to have cybersecurity and IT, but we're also bringing in our elements of our healthcare classes, of our law enforcement classes, of all those different areas to help bring that awareness to show IoT exploits and things like that, so that nurses, for example, have a really good idea of things that you need to be careful in that environment and why, and how those things can be hacked. And this is our cyber. This is the in the warfare range, which is on the other side of the fusion space there. And down below, that's where that whole area is owned by the cyber warfare range. And we're building up a culture here of leave your ego at the door, so that everyone that comes into the space are both teachers and students, no matter who you are. We're also involved with podcasts and reaching out to the larger community that way. And we've had in the past, and he'll be coming in on October 29th. So here's something I can first announce, Steve, here. We're going to have Chris Roberts coming to visit here at Pima Community College, and hopefully, and Brett Scott, and potentially another that I can't announce quite yet, but is awesome. to where we're going to give a presentation where students can be on the podcast and be asking questions of some of these major hackers. If you're not familiar with Chris Roberts, he's known as the plane hacker because a few years ago, remember in the news, there was a guy who got on a plane and hacked in through the in-flight air system and caused the plane to veer. Yeah, that's this guy. He also hacked the Mars rover and had it playing Freddie Mercury's God Save the Queen one morning. Has turned ocean liners in the open ocean, hacked all sorts of vehicles, has hacked the Pentagon, and he's still walking around among us. So that kind of gives you a real good idea of who he works for. But a great guy, okay? And he wants to come out and give a presentation as well as hang with students. And so we're trying to create that opportunity and do that. We've also been having capture the flags and multiple events that way. We've been working in events with like SheTech, which both the U of A and IBM, Raytheon, City of Tucson are all involved with the summer career technical education conferences and SARSEF. And we've had lots of tours and interactions with many of the K-12s around here in Tucson. So we're trying to develop that as much as possible to become a resource that K-12s can make good use of. And we're also working in our curriculum to develop heavily with the CompTIA, Red Hat, and now we've been doing Google Cloud. We're working in AWS Academy into a presentation there. Here's a quick view of our cybersecurity AAS for those that are the educators in the group. You'll notice here in the center of the green portions, we're also turning those into micro-credentials, which can be done very quickly in 8-week classes. So you can have your A+, Net+, Sec+. We're not teaching to the tests. We're creating more about the knowledge and expanding that, but you can have the information that you need to take those tests so that students can come in and get to a basic job level if they need to in the first semester, and then expand upon those as that goes through. So if you have any more questions, I'm more than happy to go to that in detail, as well as connect you with Chris Bondhorst, who can cover the curriculum in much greater detail than I can do. But we're working on these micro certificates that can also help be a resource to workforce in the industry around here, also utilizing and making use of the environment, right? And we also have programming AAS and networking systems AMS, AAS that track very well into the major universities and also help provide that foundation for workforce in general. How am I doing on time, Steve?
You're good, Will. We've got time.
Okay, cool.
Will, if I can interrupt for a second, there were two questions, maybe more that I didn't see, but there were two questions. One is, did GCU, Grand Canyon, has a similar kind of program? Are you working with them? And also, they wanted to know about, you had mentioned that you're working with the University of Arizona and wanted to know what the U of A's involvement is.
Yeah, so it used to be U of A South. Now I believe it's called CAST. They actually have classes here at Pima College and are heavily online. So that's part of the Bachelor's of Applied Science in those areas, but we kind of represent, we're in a 2+2 situation where we can provide the first half basically of that degree. So the advantage that students have with that is that it can be more inexpensive here at Pima, and they can also take care of a lot of their a lot of the main classes that they need to take, you know, humanities and all that kind of stuff here more inexpensively. The great advantage that we provide is that we can be a resource for those kids in the community that, and what we're trying to do with this is that we can be a resource for those students that didn't realize that it could be affordable, that it could be approachable, and through going through our program in that period of time can get themselves into really good starts in their career, and get into change their lives for the better. And that's the main gist of what we're trying to do there. So that covers the U of A part. Grand Canyon, I think there's been a little bit of work in transferable credits and stuff with that. But as far as whatever program they're doing in the Cyberway, I don't think we're involved with their range entity or whatever in that line. I'm not really familiar where they're going with that now. They used to have a portion of the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range at Grand Canyon, but that left some time ago. And so they were kind of doing their own thing at that point. Does that answer those questions?
I think so. And Jeff, you had a question?
Yeah, I was going to say this was a fascinating presentation. The fact that one gentleman can hack a commercial airliner, ocean tanker, and the Mars rover tells me that nothing is unhackable, and is definitely making me think about this differently now. So thank you. Great presentation.
Oh yeah, and you can, the podcast that I do is they're called the Coffee Talks, and they're on Friday mornings, and we have a lot of folks that come through that. Chris Roberts is pretty legendary in the field, so just look him up. He's got some great YouTube presentations and stuff like that. The other person that we're hoping to get, she's kind of given an initial confirmation, so I'll just kind of put this out there, but don't hold me to it, is Alyssa Knight, who is a pretty incredible hacker, who's also really known for hacking APIs and things along those lines. And she just broke the bug bounty for those, I think, at TMC, and I don't know if they use it at Banner, but the Epic Health monitoring system, right, or the Epic Records system for healthcare. She's hacked into the through the web APIs to be able to get read-write access to patient records. Yeah, we're in a really bad situation in this country. We suck at cybersecurity. And so what we're trying to do here is create capable cyber warriors, right? You don't train cops with squirt guns. So we gotta shift that thinking in cyber so that when students learn how to hack, they have a much better idea of how to defend. It's this day and age, you can't really separate the two. You have to be able to have that inclusive element, and the standard knowledge regurgitation of certificates just isn't cutting it. We have to change that dynamic, and so that's why it's this grand experiment that we're trying to do here.
Well, quick question for you. You know, we've had some pretty devastating hacks in 2021. The beef industry in particular jumps out at me, and you know, the gas pipeline in the eastern United States. You know, these are in any other these would be considered acts of war and anything else. I mean, this is serious stuff.
Yes.
Do you think that the federal government is going to have a much more involved role with the private sector in terms of defense? Because the gas one in particular really got my attention.
Well, CISA is very rapidly becoming the large body for cybersecurity, right? If you have attack wartime, that's Department of Defense. You know, in defensive posture here in peacetime, it's CISA. And they are doing lots of work to try and take care of some of those elements. In fact, we have students working with the cyber warfare range where the cyber warfare range. They're under the National Cyber Warfare Foundation. And because of their unique connections, right? Students are doing internships from our program where they sign NDAs with the National Cyber Warfare Foundation, and they're starting to work to help the Department of Homeland Security with their caseload, right? So there's a whole lot of companies like the ones in these pipeline situations that will call up the Department of Homeland Security and try to get some of their penetration testing elements taken care of. And because their caseload is so full, they are providing an option. You know, you can either wait 6 months for us, or we have another option with groups like the National Cyber Warfare Foundation. And by the way, there's going to be some students part of that that can help to provide those penetration testing services for you sooner. And so we're working to try to make that dynamic, to plug up the lazy IT, right? Because everything from coding to putting stuff in production, lack of resources, lack of firm understanding has left holes across this country. And we have to close those holes, because imagine if that income was put back into our economy, what a difference that would make.
Good stuff.
Other questions for Will? Will, I kind of cut you off earlier. Are there any other things that you want to add?
Let's see, my mind's swimming because I just tried to
I know.
that real quick. It's an exciting operation, and it's starting to grow, and the connections are developing all over the place. So we feel we're on the right track, but it's a place where anyone can come down and take part. If you're really interested in a tour, let me know. When you come down, I'm more than willing to walk folks through and kind of give you a better idea to where you can see the machines, get some hands-on. When we get the cyber range back up and going full like pre-COVID, anyone can walk in, sit down, we can show you targets and things along those lines. It's meant to be a disruptive environment. So anyone can walk in and say, I've never installed Linux before. Sit you down, give you some equipment, say, go for it. And then you can try, go at it. And then when you start to hit a brick wall, ask, right? But it's a place where students can fail, where they're meant to fail, and then try again and rebuild. And the amount of learning that takes place in those exercises is dramatic. So it's really exciting. The excitement is palpable. And I'm just itching to get this back open, and so are the students. It's fun.
So Will, a couple of things, and others may have questions. So one, Manny with Sarita School District wanted to know about how he can get information about events and things that you guys are doing. And so Manny, first of all, his contact information is on the meeting webpage, and you're certainly welcome to contact Will. And his contact information will also be in the meeting minutes. They'll be distributed later today. But Will, do you want to say anything more about that?
I'm sorry, about which?
Well, he just wanted to know, I think this may be for other people besides Manny, about how do people get information about what's going on, presentations and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, that's something that we have to do a lot of work in developing. So a lot of this is all student led, right? Our student club is just getting back engaged to where they can be here and be part of. And we're going to be feeding them a lot of the information for developing the speaker events and elements to try and pull that together. So hopefully we will have some type of web page or something up soon. That's also something that the students will be developing in the Center of Excellence. so that they will be controlling the website. They will be controlling all those aspects of that. And so it's a little early to tell how that's going to develop into. But feel free to contact me and I can start generating a list for those that are interested on being on a list, and we can start to have fun.
Hey, Will, can you talk some more about how people who are not in Pima County and not students can or can't participate at this point in time?
So as far as our curriculum goes, it's pretty much all online. So that's an option there. But of course, that isn't quite fully, you can't be here with the hands-on for that equipment. We will be building those elements in the future, because we could give access all the way to the DRAC cards, to the management elements, and make a virtual experience where they can be part of the team. But there's elements of that has to be worked out to where we can still keep the flavor, still keep the excitement, and still keep the dynamic conversations going, right? So all of that is a work in progress. Eventually, also what we'd like to do as we can build it, one of the thoughts, and this is just at the whiteboard stage, right? Because it's pre-lawyers, right? is possibly being able to provide what we do in the CSOC as being a second set of eyes, so that maybe with collaborative elements with education throughout the state, I'm sure we could then have students helping to not be your managed security service, but be an extra set of eyes to help bring awareness to any difficulties and threats like that coming through. But there's a lot behind that. That's kind of a dream at the moment, but we'll see how that develops. And as far as dual enrollment goes, all that I'd have to defer you through Chris Bonhorst, who is doing it. And I don't know what the requirements or things where, Pima County would be overstepping bounds and stuff like that. I don't know quite how that stuff works.
Okay. Any other questions for Will?
Yeah, can you hear me? This is Kirk.
Yep, go ahead, Kirk.
Hey, Will, have you done any interaction with the Microsoft Data Center Academy by chance? Or have you heard of that yet?
No, we haven't.
Okay. They just recently opened up operations here in connection with Maricopa County Community College System, but I'd be happy to connect you with those guys because they got a ton of resources to put towards that arena that you guys are talking about. And what I like about what you're doing too, it's not just a bunch of software kids learning how to hack at a software level. You're going everything from soup to nuts in the racks, in the switches, because as Jeff was pointing out too with hacking his Tesla, all of those IoT points are all hackable entry points. So that's awesome that you're doing that, soup nuts. I'll be happy to hook you up with those guys. And also ASU's getting ready to work on a data center curriculum. So be interesting to see how your program feeds into the, all three universities as it goes towards going forward. And I'm assuming your cyber warfare, is that with ACTRA? Is the ACTRA guys, the local ACTRA guys involved in yours at all? Is it all the national guys?
No.
Okay, so no ACTRA
is not involved at all.
Okay.
They had a fallout with the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range. We're on the cyber warfare range side.
Okay, so that fallout.
That was very tactful, Will.
Well, yeah, and the fact that his head was moving before he could say the words no, pretty much said it all. So yeah, because obviously there was some politics there, but that's good. That's good to know. And I'm gonna hit you up on LinkedIn right now, and I want to get those other resources your direction. This is an awesome program.
One of the really huge advantages with the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range is that when they talk about threat intelligence, it's feeds, right? It's actual data coming in. It's not. There's so many different organizations and stuff like that when they're talking threat intelligence, they're talking, if it comes in email, that's a whole different game. So the the really cool thing that is, you know, kind of like a pinch me is this real situation with the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range is that we're going to be getting gigs of streams of data coming in to where, you know, the difficulty when you do threat analysis is that you look at your baseline and you say, oh, what is different to find the threat, right? It's a whole different game when you can have feeds of information that you can say, this is attacking me, that IP or whoever is attacking me, what are they known for? When were they first seen? When were they last seen? And who else are they trying to attack? Now you can do comparative data. That's awesome. So that gives you kind of a glimmer, a slight idea of the difference.
Well, I think the other thing you said too, I mean, Raytheon advertises just an enormous number of unfilled cybersecurity requisitions for people. So the workforce development side of this is not only huge, but the other thing that you're talking about is the collaborative, where students could actually help a caseload.
Yes.
I mean, you know, some of the best hackers, right? These kids are so young, they don't even have a lot of the education, and they're some of the best at it on the planet. So getting that pool of kids involved and also working on caseloads could be tremendous for cybersecurity. And the FBI's got a big program here in Phoenix too that I don't know if you're hooked up with. You should be if you are with the Arizona Cyber Warfare Range, but I kind of fell out of that loop and not sure since the ACTRA meltdown what's really going on with that. But the FBI is very involved in that, and the cyber warfare group up here in North Phoenix is one of the best on the planet. So it'd be interesting to see if you can get some guidance from them too. And
yeah, other thing. Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
The other things that students are able to do through some of the intellectual property that through the range and that kind of stuff is that doing tabletop exercises that are very much like Dungeons and Dragons with all the different levels and bringing out playbooks. That's a huge opportunity for students to be able to see how things work and why, far beyond just the knob twisting into the whole range of the organization. And giving that kind of elaboration and that kind of viewpoint is an awesome opportunity for students.
So Will, that was Kirk Bush who was talking with you, and he's very well connected around the state, particularly with data centers and stuff like that. So I think he'll be a great resource for you. So we need to wrap up. I got to show my bias since I'm here in Pima County, and I've been fortunate to participate on the Pima College IT Advisory Committee. And I know when I talked to Will today that the Center of Excellence is doing a lot more in IT than what he talked about today when we focus specifically on the cyber warfare range. But they're doing some really, well, Pima College has been reinventing themselves, doing really incredible stuff in a lot of areas, but particularly with this Center of Excellence. So Will, thank you very much for presenting. Will's information will be available so he can get bombarded with emails and phone calls because he has nothing to do and sits around all day with his feet on his desk looking for something to do. So anyway, thanks, Will. Really appreciate it. Cindy Patak, are you still online?
Yes, I am.
Cindy, do you want to just say anything real quickly? I know we're pretty much out of time, but do you want to just say anything? We got a couple of webinars and things coming up. Do you want to talk about that quickly?
Yes, thank you, Steve. I did post them in the chat, but the links aren't live. But we are doing a series of webinars that are going to dive deep into each one of the notice of funding opportunities individually. Today at 11 o'clock, we're starting with the Build Back Better Challenge. So, you know, if you connect with www.eda.gov/ARPA, ARPA, the dates, times, and links will all pop up. And I would encourage everyone to really take a look at all of them because I know that we're focused on broadband here. The Build Back Better Challenge is very interesting. It really requires a collaboration with a lot of partners this is a great team here. So there is the possibility that there's something in that one for folks. And I'll be on that one today as well. And I'm working with Jeff to do technical assistance and some outreach ourselves on August 11th. So stay tuned. And of course, feel free to reach out to me specifically with any ideas that you have for projects yourselves.
And that information is also, I believe I included everything about that on the website, on our news and events page also.
Yes, yes, but of particular note, yeah, today at 11 o'clock. And I think we had several thousand folks attend the webinars last week. So they're very well attended. And they're also recorded, but I like the idea of attending them in person because there's a Q&A portion. And so that's a really good opportunity to just ask any questions you may have there too.
And as Jeff mentioned, that Jeff and Cindy and I are going to talk about doing a webinar or workshop, actually, maybe online,
Yeah.
specifically for Arizona. So we'll be talking about that the next day or so, and then letting you know about that. Any other quick announcements that anybody needs to share? We're kind of out of time. Hearing none, I think we're done for today. Will, thank you very much. Really appreciate you being here today. Hopefully we'll see you in the future.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
Awesome job, Will. Thank you.
Okay, if not, we're done for today. And yes, Aaron, I think that was for you, that yes, I do want to talk with you after this meeting. And we're done for today.
Thank you, Steve.
Yep. Okay. We're done. Aaron, are you still online? Aaron, are you still there?
Okay.
Yep, doesn't look like it. Okay.
Is
Okay,
he
we're all
gonna
done.
forward you the presentation, Steve? Do you know, or?
Yeah, I'll I'll contact Will right now and ask him to send that to me.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
And I'll try and get the other stuff to you fairly soon, Henry.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Okay.
You bet.
Welcome back, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Kirk. How you doing?
Hanging in there.
Well, that's a good thing. Wouldn't want you to not be hanging in there. You busy as always?
Yeah, a little busy.
Good. I'm encouraging my son to follow up with you. He's been out traveling and doing all kinds of stuff, but he's trying to get his resume updated and stuff. So he'll be in touch with you.
No worries, man. No worries.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you all. I'm going to end the meeting.
Thanks, Steve.
So Kirk, I think you could, oh, he's gone.